Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes. And coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, we're going to be talking about very warm air moving into the eastern U.S. and the consequences of that, and winter storms that continue to move into the western part of the U.S. all week long. So that's tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can see on the watches and warnings map this morning is we've got winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, high wind warnings all through the western half of the U.S. While in the eastern half, at least from the standpoint of watches and warnings, things are pretty calm and are likely to stay that way. Although there will be some changes as we move into later Tuesday night, and Wednesday that you'll notice. And I think one of the big changes will be the wind because it's going to be picking up from the southwest, particularly on Wednesday. In the meantime, today, we have high pressure offshore. The southwest flow is developed, and that's going to allow temperatures to warm up into the 50s and melt away the last of the snow cover, I think, if not by today, certainly by tomorrow. There's some slightly colder air around the Great Lakes, not much of a bother here. And in the west, we've got low pressure centered in southern Canada, just north of the Canadian border, with a cold front that's sweeping southward from Washington State and Oregon. And this is going to continue to produce stormy conditions and very snowy conditions in the Northwest. And later this week, uh, down further south into California, where we're probably going to see some very heavy snows spread southward into the Sierra Nevadas. Other than some patchy clouds, there's a bit of a warm front that's going by to our north this morning. There's some rain and snow shower activity with that as it moves to the east. But once it gets through this morning, we will break out into mostly sunny skies this afternoon. And you can see across a bunch of the Midwest and down through the South and back through the plains. There's not much in the way of cloud cover, but you start to see the energy that is now into the Northwest and into southwestern Canada as this next complex storm system begins its move to the east. Here's a check of the radar this morning with that warm front we're talking about from Connecticut to northern New Jersey as of 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, showing a little bit of light rain. Might even be a few wet snowflakes in the mix in some of the colder areas inland in Connecticut. But again, it doesn't last as the warm air is just going to completely take over once this system clears. And in the Northwest, we're seeing the moisture coming in from the Pacific and spreading through the Pacific Northwest, setting them up for the winter storm conditions that they're going to see there. The Storm Prediction Center is looking at a small area of marginal risk for severe weather today in southeastern Michigan, northeast Indiana, and northwest Ohio. No elevated tornado risk today, but tomorrow we have a larger area of slight risk from eastern Missouri northeast into southern Michigan, and this is going to come with a 2 to 5% tornado risk, and that's with a cold front that is sweeping on eastward. As far as precipitation is concerned, we're talking a half to 3/4 of an inch in most places from Maine down into northern Virginia. Also, half to 3/4 in some pockets of an inch and a half. And this is all going to be rain, western Pennsylvania into northern West Virginia. Some half to 3/4 inch amounts along the Gulf Coast from southeast Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle, and very heavy precip in the Pacific Northwest. And eventually later this week, it spreads down into the Southwest. These are 7-day precipitation amounts, and we're talking about several to many inches, particularly in the Sierra Nevadas and the Cascades, and up to several inches in Idaho. And in those mountain areas, of course, we're talking mostly snow. Here's the probability of at least 2 inches out in the west. I'll bring it up to 12 so we can see some of the heavier areas. Again, the Cascades and up through central and northern Oregon, where they're going to be measuring the snow in both those areas in feet before it's all said and done. And the long range just continues to indicate that this is going to be the area where we will see heavy snow in the Northeast. And this will come on the backside of the cold front Wednesday night into Thursday as we get another one of these quick shots of cold air that'll be coming in. And there's a elevated risk for at least a few inches in central and northern New York, central and north central New York, as well as southwestern New York. Maybe a little bit of lake effect going on as we get into Thursday. So as far as where this is all going, as we take a look at the overnight GFS model run. You see the snow's increasing in the northwest. That little warm front that moves on through, not really showing up well at all on the GFS this morning, but doesn't matter because we're going to go into sunshine. And then take a look at the gradient here in a large portion of the eastern United States gets pretty tight as we move through Tuesday and particularly Tuesday night into Wednesday. Now, I think we're going to see temperatures push up into the 60s west and southwest of New York City. To the east, we're looking at probably 50s because of the wind coming in off the cold ocean much of the time. And then the gradient gets even tighter as we move into Tuesday night. Low pressure deepens in southwestern Michigan. You can see some snow there moving through parts of the western Great Lakes. The low runs up into southeastern Canada. So we'll have rain Tuesday night and Wednesday in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states. We're looking at the cold front bringing more rain Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And you notice the blue on the other side of that cold front means that some areas well inland north and west might change over to accumulating snow for a couple of hours. But again, we're talking way up to the north, as we showed you before. And while all this is going on, another big storm comes into the west, and this one late this week moves down into Southern California with rain and with heavy snows in the Sierra Nevadas and more heavy snows in the Pacific Northwest. Here in the east, after this front goes by, we're going to see a quick shot of cold air for Thursday into early Friday. Then it's going to probably warm up again, and there's a little disturbance moving across the Gulf states that threatens to bring some rain for this coming Saturday, although that should move away and then it's back to dry weather. And it looks like the map is setting up all over again for a similar repeat next week with all that storminess in the west and not much of anything going on in the eastern part of the United States, at least as far as chilly weather is concerned. So these warmer than normal temperatures and the warmer than normal pattern are going to continue at least for the next 10 days and maybe even for the next 2 weeks overall. All right, folks, Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great day.